very happy to welcome now Michael Rossman from Radix Trading, joining the program today here in St Moritz. Radix Trading, for those who may not know, one of the leading global electronic trading firms with offices among other places in Chicago and New York. And it's great to have you with us, Michael.
Thank you.
Obviously, something we have special focus on, both on your side and our side, markets. This is a constantly changing topic, crypto digital asset markets in particular. Things have grown quite a bit, of course, since Bitcoin first came on the scene. How do you kind of see the development, the acceleration of markets overall, and then how do you think blockchain, crypto in particular, may add to that acceleration?
Thank you, and thank you for having me on your podcast. Very broadly speaking, I think any technology that focuses on eliminating friction, and in global markets, these frictions are information frictions, transaction frictions, the ability for commerce to navigate global economies or domestic economies. Any technology that effectively resolves these frictions and makes it easier, cheaper, better, faster to transact is what drives, our civilization for many years. There used to be pigeons, then telegraph, marathon, where, people used to run to deliver a message. And obviously we've had the internet, and the blockchain is a very specific one, which has focused on transactional distribution, which is how do you manage the ability to transfer value and validate it at the same time at fast speeds on the distributed basis. So from that perspective, if you look at it on a long-term horizon, it's certainly a technology that has a stab at transforming it. It could be a derivative of that technology. And one example where it already probably has contributed is that you see in a lot of places faster payments. So faster payments are not blockchain, but all of a sudden you can instantly, in European countries and in Asia, suddenly instantly do transfers between folks. And I think maybe the seed of some of these ideas, correlated with blockchain. Some of them may have come a little bit before, but certainly the accelerated development of these things. So it's not just the blockchain itself, but what it enables in the financial ecosystem, whether it's trading or commerce or, between individuals.
And obviously, being an electronic trading firm, this is something that you look at very closely because information and speed and everything like that is very, very important.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on a point, which is one of the first applications in blockchain, which has been quite interesting, is in the back office and settlement. And I used to be in banking, for example, and reconciliation in banking is a very complicated exercise. If you're a global bank or sufficiently large bank domestically, settling in the back office where the money is a big question, which is, it's not surprising why some of the larger banks, when they look at blockchain, they focused less on Bitcoin and Ethereum and coins, and they focused on the application to settlement. And I think it's true for markets as well. So obviously, there are some elements of clearing and settlement which the blockchain may be able to handle at scale. I think there's still a big debate to what degree the industry itself is able to adopt new technologies, because some of the things that exist work and have worked well, but it's the speed of change of the industry versus the speed of the technology necessarily that will determine probably the application and commercial application, both to trading markets, but also to the broader commercial markets.
And then just more broadly, of course, now crypto assets have kind of established themselves as an asset class, and that whole side of things is accelerating at the same time. Meanwhile, people are still exploring blockchain for those parts of the value chain that you talk about. So you would say kind of two parallel things are going on here.
Yeah, I think a lot of experimentation that's going on in the market is very interesting. You obviously have lots of folks with great ideas. AI just has come on. Folks are talking about blockchain application to artificial technology, artificial intelligence. I don't know what either of those terms mean yet specifically in practice, but clearly the fact that the blockchain and derivative products that emerge from it, be tokens of settlement, are really important in the sense that more people are touching it, whether personally because for whatever reason you bought a Bitcoin, or professionally because you're experimenting in the back office of a bank of how to settle your internal systems. So there are a lot more people working on it, not just individually, but on a professional level. So that's very interesting to see.
We often talk about blockchain, crypto being very revolutionary, and there is that element, as you alluded to. At the same time, when we think about just crypto assets as an asset class coming in, there maybe are some things that aren't changing, don't change, shouldn't change when it comes to market structure, market integrity, transparency, things like that you have already in traditional capital markets, and you would need, and banks and other institutions would need as well. TradFi, right? So how do you think about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we spoke a little bit before. I always think of Alexander Hamilton as a good example of when the United States was born. They literally didn't have a template of what markets look like, and they had to look. He looked at the Bank of England, for example, and how that enabled creation of credit markets and establishing good credit, and setting up, if you will, regulation around it, and setting up the Bank of the United States. So clarity of regulation, transparency of markets, ability of good agents to participate and enforce that, it's really important, and it's important broadly. It has always been important historically, and now there's a lot of experience in what that looks like. And I think TradFi does have very good primers for how to think about the digital asset world, and I'm sure they'll be evolving. And I think there are a bunch of folks with innovative ideas, whether it's on the regulatory side or on the practice side or legal side. And it's going to be interesting to see how these changes that are happening now already, and probably will accelerate in the next few years, probably will come closer to what TradFi looks like. And that's good. That's a good thing, because we know, generally speaking, what works and what hasn't worked that well over the last however many years.
Always learning from experience is a good thing, yeah.
Right.
Without changing everything overnight. I mean, this kind of begs the bigger question: what makes good markets, right? Transparency, integrity, resiliency, efficiency, all of those things. These are things we think about and talk about at RuleMatch as well, since we do believe that TradFi has a pretty good blueprint for some things in the crypto space.
Yeah, and
as
you've
well.
been traveling a really interesting path, which is fantastic. Taking all the best things from the TradFi world, bringing it into the digital asset world, which is absolutely brilliant. I would say that, look, not to go back to history again, but Adam Smith and his invisible hand, it's a very powerful force. And ultimately in markets, when you're delivering efficiency, whether it's pricing of goods and services or supply and demand, understanding what innovations could get capital, what works, bringing new products to market, bringing new innovation, whatever it may be, across any industry, any innovation that facilitates that invisible hand in a well-regulated way is absolutely brilliant. I think it's key to what makes our economies work, what make markets work. There are different views on to what degree, how heavily they should be regulated, etc. But generally, I think there is an agreement broadly that the invisible hand of the market and the pricing efficiency is fantastic within well-regulated world. And obviously, Adam Smith is famous for the Wealth of Nations, but he actually wrote the theory of sentiments, which is also a philosophical, the theory of moral sentiments, which are about not the regulation, but sort of how the market, could operate in a positive and good way. And most people don't talk about that book, but that's the other side of the Wealth of Nations. So the invisible hand is here, and the theory of moral sentiments is here, which sort of work together. And I suspect blockchain and digital assets hopefully will also continue to evolve into that stream, which, definitely you see a lot of institutions now coming into the space.
Yeah, and moving maybe just a bit back into the future
Right.
instead of the past, but that's
Sure.
also very, very interesting. Just short term next year, is there something that you're looking at or considering keeping an eye on that might be developing? One thing I can just say that we hear from some people is more efficient price discovery in crypto markets now, especially with institutions coming into the space. Is that something that you think might
Yeah, I
develop?
think, look, greater institutional participation that are well-regulated, et cetera, coming into the space and bringing with them the institutional machinery, the institutional client base, et cetera, will necessitate better pricing by definition. And whenever there's going to be, the pricing is going to be inefficient, as long as there's institutional participation, there's demand for this mechanism of discovering prices around the world, then absolutely, I think you may see greater. But I think there's still a lot of work to do. I think it is still a very early technology. I think there's still a lot that can be done in this space that potentially just improves all the markets, not just the blockchain market. I think the blockchain technology has the potential to improve traditional finance as well. Let's not forget about it. I think it's not an isolated field where suddenly it's in its own world, but probably it will have a much broader implication, application, in a broader economy.
Very, very interesting. Michael, thank you very much for the
Thanks
chat,
a lot.
for your
Absolutely.
insights, and look forward to catching up again in the new year.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.